Okay, so number 36, Nam and Brandon each have a cylindrical canister of Pringles. Nam's cylinder has a diameter of 7, which means the radius is 3.5, and a height of 13. Brandon's cylinder has a diameter of 5, which means a radius of 2.5, and a height of 20. Whose cylinder has the largest surface area? So this line is me doing Nam's surface area of his cylinder. It comes out to be 362.9. Here's me doing the surface area of Brandon's cylinder. It comes out to be 353.4. And, well, it's asking for which one's bigger, and that's Nam's. That's a bigger number. That's what I think. All right, 37 is a poorly worded question. You have to assume it's a right triangle, which it doesn't really tell you it is. It's poorly worded. I agree, because why should you assume it's a right triangle? But let's just assume it's a right triangle so that there could be an answer. Really, without it being a right triangle, it requires more information or very advanced trigonometry to get to it. So instead, let's assume it's a 4 by 3 triangle, which makes the hypotenuse into a 5. And the height of the whole prism is 8. So the perimeter would be 3 plus 4 plus 5, which is 12. The base is 4 times 3 divided by 2, which is 6. And then you put those in pH plus 2b, the height of 8, end up with 108. Okay. Yeah. So 38 is, we have a roof of a barn in the shape of a cone, the diameter of 6, which means the radius is 3, and a height of 4. And Jen wants to paint the roof red. 1 gallon of red paint will cover 24 square feet. Roughly how many gallons does she need to cover the roof? Well, we have, okay, so the slant height of the cone would become 5. It would be the hypotenuse. Using the height of 4 and the radius of 3 creates the slant height of 5, which we need in order to do surface area of a cone. Surface area of a cone is pi r squared plus pi r L. Okay, so we have 3 pi 3 squared plus pi 3 times 5. It gets 75.4. All right, now it wants to know how many gallons does she need. Well, you would do this volume, surface area, do the surface area divided by the how many square feet a gallon of paint can do. You end up with about 3.1. So it needs about 3.1 gallons of paint. 39 is your surface area formula for a sphere is 4 pi r squared. It tells you the surface area is 64 pi. So what I did here is I divided 4 pi from both sides. You divide 4 pi on this side, you get r squared. You divide 4 pi here, 64 divided by 4 is 16. Pi divided by pi, it just cancels out. We're left with r squared equals 16, and that means you square root this and you get r is 4. 40. Find the volume of the nearest tenth. Okay, so we don't have a radius. We have a height of 24, but we need a radius. And so we have this is 60, and that means, well, this is 30. And that means that this 24 is the rad 3 part of the right triangle. Meaning this is the 24, and we're solving for this first. Like this is the radius, this is the height. We don't need the slant height for this, since it's just volume. Okay, so 24 divided by rad 3 is how you do it. And then you got it. How do you get rid of the rad 3? Well, you multiply times rad 3 over rad 3, and that creates 24 rad 3 over 3 becomes 8 rad 3. So the radius is 8 rad 3. Volume of a cone is pi r squared h. So we use the 8 rad 3 as the radius. And it becomes 8 rad 3 squared times 24 times pi over 3. It becomes this big number. 41 is about the volume of a triangular prism. Okay, so if this is 12, down here is 12. If this is 13, that's 13. And if that's 12 and that's 13, well, if you do Pythagorean theorem, that makes this 5. That makes this down here 5, and we have a height of 20. So how you do the volume of a triangular prism is you get the area of the triangle, and then you multiply times the height. So the area of the triangle would be 12 times 5 divided by 2, and then the height's 20. That becomes 600. Okay, Sophia wants to fill her soup. Now, this is a really weird question. Just assume that the Tupperware is a rectangular prism. It's usually not. It's usually like a wide cylinder, usually. But assuming, the reason why I assume it's a rectangular prism is because it gives me a length, a width, and a height. meaning it's a three-dimensional shape where there's three solid dimensions, and that's a prism, really. And so you just multiply those three numbers together, you get 1656. All right, a cylinder whose height is 5 has a volume of 320 pi cubic meters. And so find the radius of the cylinder. So this is, so it's saying this is the volume of the cylinder, and volume is pi r squared h. We know h is 5, okay? So what I did was 320 divided by 5 is 64. Pi divided by pi is just, it cancels out. So you get r is 8. And that's how you do that. Okay, so for 44, all right, so we're given the volume of two spheres, and you have to find the diameters of both. Actually, no, it said diameter. I just noticed that. So that's actually not the answer. It's going to be, I don't know what it is. Let's figure that out. So 250 is the volume of the sphere. So what 59.7 is, if I do 250 divided by 4/3 pi, it becomes 59.7. And then I did the cube root of 59.7. So just to kind of like show you on Desmos, essentially is, what was it? It was like 250. Okay, so 250, and then I would divide by 4 divided by that, pi, and I get that number. And if you, so in Desmos, if you actually go to the bottom, you click functions, go all the way to the bottom, you see this root thing. Ooh, I don't need to put it there. I'm going to put it here. Okay. So this, then you put a little 3, now I have cube roots, and you want to cube root that number. I'm just going to round up, and we get this, about 3.9. And so that's why that's 3.9, but that it should actually be 7.8. It wants diameters. I just noticed that. It wants diameters. Okay. And so we now have 750. You do the same thing, and that should end up being 11.2. So what's 11.2 minus, I don't know, 7.8? 3.4. That should actually be what the answer is for that problem. Yeah, actually double that. Makes sense. So let's double this. 3.4, that's what it should be. All right, 45, we got a cone. The volume of that, what is the height? So basically what that means, you're solving for h in the volume formula for a cone. So it tells you this. So what I did here was, here's the volume, here's everything but h. I multiplied both sides times 3, and that makes it say 503.01 is 16 pi. It's 16 pi because 4 squared is 16. And now what I did was I did 503.01 divided by 16, and that turns into about 10. So the height's 10. Don't bother with 46. Don't bother with that. But 47 is a rectangle and a trapezoid. And so we have 4 times 5 for the rectangle, and we got 5 times 4 plus 12 divided by 2 for the trapezoid, and it turns into 60. Okay. So the last 3 questions. All right, 48 is a compound volume with 2 rectangular prisms. We got 5 times 10 times 15 gives us the big one, and then 5 times 5 times 5. It's really just it's a cube and a rectangular prism. That turns into 875. 49 is a sphere and a cylinder. Here's a hemisphere, here's a hemisphere. You add 2 hemispheres together, you get a sphere with a radius of 3, and then you have a cylinder in the middle with a radius of 3 and a height of 10. It becomes 395.8. 50 is the cylinder minus the cone. That's the unshaded region. So the cylinder and the cone both have the exact same radiuses, and the heights. And you with 3 and 8, and it works out to be 150.8. Okay, that is the end of the review. I hope this was helpful. Have a good day.